come home alive and intact, but walking off the plane or getting an honorable discharge is not the end for many soldiers. Sometimes, and in truth we really don't know how often, the war continues to rage inside the soldier. Certainly not every soldier. We're not always sure why some move on and others can't. What you're about to see is the story of two men who know all too well how war can linger in the worst of ways. It's reported from Los Angeles tonight by CNN's Frank Buckley.
For two different veterans
Hi, my name's Chad Reiber.
of two different wars,
Shad, me, Shad.
the toll of combat has prompted a common calling. Shad Shad served in Vietnam, Chad Reiber, Iraq and Afghanistan. Today, both help fellow veterans, serving soldiers and their families at this call center, the National Veterans Foundation, that Shad started 2 decades ago. Here, they provide crisis intervention and referrals. They listen to fellow combat veterans who are hurting.
So we've been there, okay? You hear me?
Less than a year ago, it was Chad himself who was in pain. It began here, October 2001, Chad's first jump into Afghanistan. He was a U.S. Army Ranger on his way into battle for the first time. Before long, he would kill for the first time.
Went up the stairs, cleared a room, and there was a guy in the corner, Taliban, and took him down.
Many more would die in the years that followed. Fellow soldiers, the enemy, innocent civilians.
We found a lot of fragments of civilians, women.
Like warriors before him and warriors since, his eyes saw things Chad wishes they hadn't.
Just take a deep breath.
Today, he's able to relive the most painful of the moments in counseling sessions with Shad.
You're safe here, so you can go there. Just look at it. Stop and take a deep breath. Drop your hands. Let's load up. Load and release.
10 months ago, when Shad and Chad first met, the young veteran, by then a Purple Heart recipient and discharged from the Army, was barely functioning.
I got to the point where no one wanted to hang around me. You know, people would tell me to leave because they knew I was a loose cannon. They knew I'd flip out.
Because he was drinking heavily, fighting, and in a deep emotional pain that he refused to confront until much later, until after he nearly committed murder.
I went to a party. I put my .380 in my pocket like I always did, and bumped into someone. I drank a half-gallon of whiskey that day. I pulled out the weapon. I hit him on the head with it. I loaded it, and I pulled the trigger, and it just clicked and didn't fire. And that kind of like brought me out of it, and I was just like, what am I doing?
Chad pleaded guilty to assault with a deadly weapon and was facing a lengthy prison term when his public defender began recruiting experts to help convince a judge that the 24-year-old veteran of 2 combat tours deserved a second chance.
Bye-bye.
That's when Shad Shad, who specializes in post-traumatic stress disorder, first met Chad Reiber.
He had the classic symptoms, you know, alienation, anger, very aggravated, nightmares, flashbacks.
Many of the symptoms had actually surfaced during his military service, but he never once sought help from a counselor or therapist.
That's the last thing you want to be, is a weak guy on your team. It's very frowned upon, and you wouldn't be respected by anybody if you ever did that.
Chad's view is consistent with those of many combat veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan who participated in an Army study published last summer in the New England Journal of Medicine. Roughly 1 in 5 combat veterans surveyed said they struggled with a mental health problem, but only a quarter of those with problems got help. They said one of the biggest obstacles to getting it is the stigma attached to those who do.
I think that there is a perception that all of those things are true. If you seek mental health care, you're weak, your career is over, that this is going to be perceived by your buddies that you're not reliable. I don't think that that's true.
Colonel Thomas Burke is the Director of Mental Health Policy for the Department of Defense. While he acknowledges the study's findings, the colonel says the military does offer help, and it tries to encourage soldiers to seek it out.
today, you know, the treatments are available so that soldiers with mental health issues now are not problem soldiers. They are soldiers with problems, and those problems have solutions.
But Shad Meshad and Chad Reiber know a different reality.
What I need you to do, Shaquille, is I need you to just stay with me. I hear you. I know you're upset. I know you don't want to be redeployed. I just need some time to work with you.
They know the reality of vets who call in crisis.
Here's Chad.
Soldiers struggling to live with combat experiences who think they are alone.
They want to know what I wanted, that there's someone else going through the same thing, and that they're not the only ones that are having a hard time sitting at a dinner table without trying to, you know, sitting on their hands because they want to flip out, you know.
For Chad, life is no longer the battle it was a year ago. He's sober and in the care of his fellow veteran, Shad.
When you see that Chad today and know where he came from, what is that like for you?
It's powerful. I never thought I'd get this. I'm proud.
But it's the prospect of the untold thousands of others whose struggles haven't ended that drives both of these veterans of two different wars.
These are tears of joy. I also, maybe there's some tears for those that just aren't going to get his chance.
I want to give everybody the chance that I had at recovery and to make something of their lives other than just a waste, which was the path I was going.
Frank Buckley, CNN, Los Angeles.
When I get a veteran service officer.
If you know someone who needs help, the call center profiled in this piece is the National Veterans Foundation. You can reach the people there at 1-888-777-4443. That's 1-888-777-4443.